My name is Chu Jinghen, Novometric 297377. Petroleum plays a vital role in a country's economic growth, as it is widely used across numerous industries. If petroleum prices increase, production costs for companies related to petroleum will also rise. Consequently, consumers will need to pay higher prices to purchase goods and services. This phenomenon is known as inflation. It is important for us to understand that inflation in petroleum directly impacts a country's overall annual inflation rate. To prove this statement, we can refer to data from the Department of Statistics in Malaysia. In 2019, overall inflation rate decreased from 1% in 2018 to 0.7%, while inflation in petroleum also decreased from 2% to 1.9%. Both declined simultaneously. In 2020, Malaysian inflation rate faced a significant decrease, dropping from 0.7% to negative 1.2%, and petroleum inflation also saw a substantial decline from 1.9% to negative 1.7%. Both experienced a notable reduction at the same time. Moving to 2021, the country inflation rate increased from negative 1.2% in 2020 to 2.5%, and petroleum inflation rose from negative 1.7% to 1.5%. Both witnessed an increase. In 2022, the inflation rate increased from 2.5% to 3.3%, while petroleum inflation also increased from 1.5% to 1.8%. These trends in various years have proven that there is a direct relation between a country inflation rate and inflation in petroleum. In conclusion, if we want to control the annual inflation rate in Malaysia, it is significant to control the inflation rate in petroleum. The million-dollar question is, what are the factors contributing to petroleum inflation in Malaysia? I will pass it to student representative in UUM, Adi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, we are going to interview one of the most influential persons in this world. Please welcome, Mr. How are you?
I'm fine.
Mr. Can I ask you a question? Of course, yes, because I'm here to ask you a question, right? Okay. The question is, what is the factor that influence inflation on petroleum?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi. My name is Muhammad Adib Izzat bin Suhati, and my metric number is 297372. And today I will share to you guys about the factor that influence the inflation on petroleum that I was mentioned in that video. The first factor that influence the inflation on petroleum is abolition of GST. In June 2018, the government under leadership of Dr. Mahathir Mohamad was decided to remove the GST, and the government was decided to replace the GST with SST. The purpose government decide to remove GST is to reduce the price of goods and services. Because of the abolition, the inflation rate in Malaysia was decreased, and it also leads to decrease the inflation on petroleum in 2018 and 2019. The second factor that influenced the inflation on petroleum is MCO. During 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic played a major role in this scenario. During the pandemic COVID-19, government has decided to make a lockdown. Lockdown in 2020 leads to decrease the economic activity like travelling. So because of the reduction on travelling, the demand of oil was reduced globally. So it's clear that MCO caused the negative impact on oil price and inflation rate in Malaysia. Okay, the third factor that I want to share to you guys is the Russia-Ukraine war that happened in 2022. This war leads the inflation rate increase in 2%. This will also give a significant impact on oil price. The Russia also the major country that supply the energy to the region. In conclusion, the war leads to global disruption, especially in oil and gas supply. So it's clear that the Russia-Ukraine war leads to increase the inflation rate, also increase the inflation on the petroleum. So I think that is the three factors that influence the inflation on petroleum. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. So today we are going to interview someone who are primarily affected with petroleum inflation in Malaysia. So today we have Sir. Good morning.
Morning.
Can you introduce yourself? What's your name?
My name is Muhammad Ismail bin Abdul Rahman.
Okay. Sir,
Yep.
I would like to ask you about petroleum inflation. So, what is your opinion about the effect of petroleum inflation as a consumer?
So, as a consumer, I find it very hard for me to live in this era, which the petroleum prices are increasing day by day. So, I found it very hard for me to deal with my budgets when the expenditure are increasing. So, it's a bit tight for me in this nowadays.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your time to answer my question. So, that's all from me, and for Mr. Razik, thank you. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Rashida binti Rashidi, number matrix 297939. I will talk about effect of inflation of petroleum in Malaysia. There are many negative effects on inflation in petroleum. First of all, petroleum inflation primarily affects consumers. According to research, the Ukraine war conclude with a total household petroleum cost increase of 62.6% to 112.9%, leading to a 2.7 and to 4.8% rise in the household expenditures. Amidst the cost of living pressures, an additional 78 million to 141 million people could potentially be pushed into extreme poverty. This statement demonstrates that the increased price of petroleum imposes significant financial pressure on consumers, with some facing poverty. Furthermore, Malaysia increases reliance on importing food from other countries, which bring many negative consequences to our country. When the price of petroleum goes up, Malaysia might try a quick fix by importing similar goods from other places that are cheaper. This can help in the short term, like how China saved money by buying oil from sanctioned countries. But relying too much on importing things, especially related to petroleum, can cause problems in the long run. It might make a country vulnerable to changing prices and could affect its ability to develop its own industries. So, while importing can be a quick solution, it's important to think about the bigger picture and not depend too much on it for a healthy economy in the long term. In conclusion, inflation in petroleum affects consumers and also leads to increased reliance on importing from other countries, which bring many negative consequences to our country. That's all for me. I will pass it to my friends.
Baik, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hari ini kita akan cari salah seorang pengguna petroleum di negara kita. So, jom kita cari. Nak soalan nak tanya soalan sikit. Soalan sikit.
Oh, boleh.
So, kita akan tanya soalan kat bagi nama apa?
Nama saya Nazif Fatahar.
Nazif. Okey, soalan Nazif. So, awak sedar tak tentang inflasi petroleum yang berlaku kat negara kita ni?
Saya sedar.
Alhamdulillah. Okey. Ni saya ada satu soalan untuk awak.
Okey.
Mungkin awak sedar tentang fiskal dan monetary policy, iaitu polisi yang telah diperkenalkan oleh kerajaan kita untuk mengatasi masalah inflasi ini. Contoh fiskal adalah subsidi, manakala monetary adalah harga kawalan barang. So bagi awak sendiri, bagaimanakah cara yang terbaik untuk mengatasi masalah inflasi petroleum, fiskal ataupun monetary?
Pendapat saya rasa fiskal lah. Sebab saya tahu yang tu je. Fiskal, kerana fiskal kan kita ada subsidi. Okay, subsidi ni memberikan inisiatif terbaik kepada masyarakat lah, untuk kita nak kurangkan harga bebanan masyarakat. So dia secara langsung memberi nilai tambah kepada masyarakat untuk memperoleh minyak-minyak lah. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih masa untuk jawab semua memberi agak pesan. Terima kasih. Jom kita pesan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hassan Sajjad bin Muhammad Noor. My metric number is 297422, and I will continue with the solution to prevent inflation of petroleum in Malaysia. So, Malaysian petroleum industry inflation requires a holistic approach that involves monetary and fiscal policy tools. So, fiscally speaking, the government may reduce the impact of growing fuel prices on necessities by establishing price limits and targeted subsidies. This involves identifying the essential goods or industry that are most impacted by inflation and offering financial assistance to counteract these price rises. In order to protect consumers from sudden and significant changes, price limits on specific petroleum products can also aid in preventing excessive price increases. The government should concentrate on expanding the economy to reduce its reliance on petroleum-related earnings. Building a more stable economic foundation can be facilitated by developing and funding alternative industry, including manufacturing, services and technology. Investment in infrastructure is also essential. Long-term sustainability can be achieved by allocating cash to initiatives like public transportation or alternative energy that increase transportation efficiency and reduce dependency on petroleum products. And lastly, as an example, our Minister of Economy, Rafizi Ramli, announced that the original targeting of petrol and diesel subsidies will be implemented in 3 ways to ensure the effectiveness of aid provision and improve the government's fiscal position in May, June, July and September. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Haziq bin Suhaimi and my matrix number is 297364. Through monetary policy, the central bank can manage inflation by adjusting interest rates. Rising interest rates have the potential to reduce inflationary pressures by discouraging excessive investment and consumer spending. One further instrument in the toolbox of monetary policy is foreign exchange intervention. In order to reduce the impact of import inflation, especially that caused by increasing petroleum prices, the central bank may intervene in the foreign exchange market in an effort to stabilize the value of the country's currency. Credit controls are an example of a more focused monetary policy tool. The central bank can affect consumer behavior and credit availability, which in turn affects the state of the economy by changing reserve requirements or placing restrictions on particular lending categories. In order to control expectation and lower market uncertainty, the central bank must communicate its inflation targeting policies in an understandable and straightforward way. Monetary policy choices can be influenced and inflation expectation can be stabilized by establishing a precise inflation target and successfully informing the public about it. And is aligned with Bank Negara Malaysia objectives that the aim is to promote monetary stability and implement a monetary policy that maintains a low and predictable pace of increase in the general level of prices of goods and services in Malaysia. In conclusion, by using a combination of fiscal and monetary policies, Malaysia can solve inflation in petroleum and achieve greater economic stability.